So, welcome to the third session in a series of 4 on wealth on any income, building wealth, and looking at all the different areas that you may not have realized or considered. And you're going to learn wealth principles that my friend Rennie Gabriel uses still today to amass millions. And he's author of Wealth on Any Income. And I'm really pleased to have Rennie with us. And hello, Rennie.
Hi, Laurel. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, well, what you talk about is what so many people don't realize. And I remember 30 years ago saying to myself, well, I guess I'm not going to win any lottery, so I'm going to have to go out there and make my millions. I'll earn it. And I had a different mindset back then, in that it's like, roll up the sleeves, get in and do the physical work to make the millions. But it doesn't have to be like that, right?
That's correct. Wealthy people are tracking their money, but it doesn't mean they're having to deal with all of the details and any physical work related to those investments. And I'll give an example today as we're talking about investments.
Great. And thanks to everyone who's joining us live or on the replay. And I also want to bring attention to one of the foundations that Rennie's really passionate about. And one of the reasons I was interested in talking to him in the beginning, and it's from Shelter to Soldier. And so Rennie's a philanthropist and believes in giving back. And I'm the same way. I raised my children on those same principles. If you're not getting enough, you're not giving enough, I've often said, and I apply it to my own life. And I'm really passionate about our four-legged beings out there that are often overlooked and abused. And Shelter to Soldier takes dogs that are in compromised, dangerous situations or looking at being euthanized, and they rescue them and partner them with veterans who are dealing with PTSD and brain injuries and that. And thank you so much, Rennie, for that work that you do and further creating more awareness out there. And today, Rennie is going to share with us about investments. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Thank you so much, Rennie.
Oh, thank you, Laurel. And in addition to the comments you made about Shelter to Soldier, which is so near and dear to my heart, these aren't just companion dogs. They're not like taken out of the shelter before they're euthanized and become a friend to a soldier. These dogs are trained over a period of a year to 18 months to be true service animals, from the standpoint of opening doors or turning on lights or recognizing when the soldier is starting to melt down and removing them from that environment. So these are amazingly trained animals, not
working dogs.
Yes. Yeah. And they have a purpose in life. And instead of being euthanized, they're saving lives. So
wow.
Anyway.
Thank you for that.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for sharing. And welcome to those who are joining us live. I'm here with Rennie Gabriel, who's coming to us from, you're not right in LA, but you're close to LA. Are you in Santa Barbara?
No, I'm actually in one of the suburbs of Los Angeles. I mean, in Los Angeles, you've got Encino, Sherman Oaks, Westwood, and all these other areas. And I'm really in Los Angeles, but it's Encino is a part of it.
Oh, and I've been there many times.
Oh, cool.
Next time I have someone to call up for coffee.
Exactly. When you know you're going to be out here, you need to let me know.
As soon as I can get into looking forward to those times. So thank you to everyone who's hopping on live and joining us today. I'm here with Rennie Gabriel, and I'm going to turn the floor over to him because he's going to teach us about wealth principles he uses to amass millions today. And today is about investments. Go ahead, Rennie.
Okay. So if any of your listeners, or if they're watching live, whatever, have questions, they type them in. I really enjoy the interaction of answering questions. And what I'll do is a little review from the previous series that we've done, I spoke about their 3 secrets to the wealthy. There's the attitude, which is the most important. I have an acronym if someone wants to remember these 3 secrets. And the acronym is AFI. And the A stands for attitudes, not the American Film Institute. The F stands for forms. They look at a balance sheet. They look at income and expense forms differently than most people do, the wealthy. And the last item, the I, for the wealthy, are the investments, which are not limited to stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. As an example, I spent some time looking at different real estate investments because that's one of my favorites. And I'll tell you a little story, and then I'll talk about different areas of just one other aspect of the investments. And when I say one other aspect, and I say real estate has 20 to 30 different areas. So let me tell you my story. I'm broke at age 50 after a couple divorces and a business failure. I spent 3 years saving up 10% of my income. It's called Pay Yourself First. Laurel, you and I have talked about this, right?
Right.
Okay. So it's a 5,000-year-old concept. I set aside $500 a month. I was earning $5,000 a month. That's why the book is called Wealth on Any Income, because $5,000 a month is not a super large amount of money. In 3 years, I saved up $18,000 and was given the opportunity to buy a 3-unit property from a realtor that my wife was very close with. The only problem is in Los Angeles, $18,000 won't buy you anything. And it wouldn't do it 20 years ago either. So my wife said, well, I'll chip in $18,000. And the realtor said, this is such a good deal. I'll chip in the balance of the down payment, which was another $36,000. So the 3 of us bought it together. 5 years later, that $18,000 investment was worth millions of dollars because we used the tax code for tax deferred exchanges. I borrowed money to make down payments on more apartment buildings. But the bottom line is it started with $18,000 in real estate. Now, a lot of people, when they think about buying real estate, they think, oh, I'll buy a second home. Okay. That's the common thinking. Well, not only is there a second home you could buy, but there are apartment buildings, there are condominiums, there are townhomes, there are assisted living facilities, there's board and care facilities, there's Airbnb, there's fix and flip. That's just in the residential area. In commercial, you could have office buildings, office parks, self-storage, mixed-use buildings, a hotel, a motel, a trailer hotel, and that's just commercial. Another area, retail. You could buy a shopping mall, a strip mall, a mini mall, a standalone store. Or industrial, you could have a warehouse, a car wash, manufacturing plant, laundromat, even raw land. And let's say you want a passive approach in real estate. Like Laurel, you were talking about, not wanting to be physically involved in the investment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are real estate investment trusts. There are first and second trust deeds. There are tax liens. There's hard money loans. There's crowdfunding. All of these things I just mentioned, which is probably 24 things, that's just in one area called real estate.
Right. So a trust fund, is that what you said? I'm sorry.
I said trust deeds.
Okay.
In other words,
talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Let's say that you have a house and you want to borrow some money and you have equity in that house. Mm-hmm. And right now, the only loan you have is to the bank. But if you want to borrow more money, the bank might refinance, or you could just go out and get what's called a second trust deed. The bank is holding a first trust deed on your house, and I might loan money to you and take a position as a lender behind your bank. Now, my interest rate is going to be higher than you're paying the bank because I'm assuming a little bit more risk, except you're using your house as collateral. If you don't pay me, I'll begin a foreclosure process and take away your house. So they're very secure, providing you've left room in there in terms of the value of the property. So if I go a little farther into the weeds, let's say your house is worth $200,000. You're owing the bank $100,000. Well, there's $100,000 of additional equity. I'm probably only going to loan $50,000, not $100,000. So in the event the market turns around, I still have security and my loan is covered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I liked our conversation in the last session too around and how you said it, purchasing a house, and if it's not making you money, it's costing you. And
no, I'm talking about the house you're living in. That's correct.
Right. And we have land, and my husband and I think differently about it. But because of that conversation, looking at how this fair bit of land that we have and how we can subdivide it and create more investment. It's rented out, for a perennial crop. So there is income coming from it, but not a whole bunch. So looking at maximizing it. And so just hearing you talk about it just gave me more confidence in talking to him about, okay, look, this is what we could do. This is what Rennie said. So yeah, just looking at things differently is really what you're talking about. And for all of those who are joining us live right now, type in any questions that you have. We may not be able to see them. I'm live streaming to several different platforms, but Rennie will make sure that your questions are answered. But thank you so much, Rennie, for your inspiration. And it's a lot easier than we think, right?
Oh, exactly. And I want to talk about some additional investments that the wealthy are involved in besides stocks, bonds, real estate, and mutual funds. And that would be peer-to-peer lending, where you want to borrow money, I can loan money to you directly instead of you going to the bank to borrow it and the bank earning 10%. I can earn the 10%. There's oil and gas investments. There's cryptocurrencies. There's equipment leasing. There's artwork. There's owning your own business, which is also an investment. Right. There's antiques and antique cars. All I'm getting at is, well, let's say, do you know where Hurst Castle is?
I've been by there many times.
Okay, great. So Randolph Hurst owned a newspaper. And I forgot what it was called, and it's irrelevant. But the point is, Hearst Castle was nothing more than what you could call his museum for his art collection.
Right.
He had tremendous wealth in antiques, whether you're talking about physical antiques, you're talking about carpeting, or that's not the word because you don't walk on this stuff. Tapestries. Thank you.
Yeah.
He literally built his house walls indoors, the size needed to hang huge tapestries. Yeah. So it's not like he bought a house or had a house built and then tried to see how he could fit his artwork into it. He built the Hearst Castle around the artwork he owned.
Yeah. And so I'm sorry. I love that story because we've driven by it so many times and we researched it too. And he built very far away from everything, was speculating that it would be of value. Well, it's still really far away from everything, but it's still, and it did go through some downtime just because he's gone and other people didn't have his vision. But today, what's happening there too, and because the taxes became so crazy, right? That his grandchildren now oversee it, and they've, instead of forfeiting their land, they've given that land over to conserving for the walruses and the seals. I've walked out on those piers out there. What used to be just beach and kind of desolate is a conservation area, and it's a museum today. And yeah, that's a really great example. I just want to say hello to Roxy and Mike, who are joining us here too. We've got some really interesting guests coming in. So thanks so much for joining us. And hey, friends, I want to introduce you to Rennie Gabriel, who's, he's a guy just like us, and he's made a tremendous difference in the lives of so many, and created tremendous wealth, is creating millions today with the investments that he's teaching here. So listen in. He's got something interesting to say that'll apply to your life. Thank you, Rennie.
Oh, you're welcome, Laurel. And getting back to Hurst Castle, while he was alive, obviously there was no problem in supporting it and paying the taxes. And what made the most sense after he passed away and the family struggling is to donate it to the state of California and have them operate it as a museum, which is what ended up happening. And the funds, can also do the conservation work, which is fabulous.
Mhm.
Anyway, one of the other things I wanted to mention in the real estate categories is that, again, a lot of my money came from apartment buildings, but I've been involved in many of the aspects of the real estate. And if someone wants a list of all of that stuff, they can send an email to me and I'll just send it out as a PDF document. But I've invested in real estate investment trusts, also called REITs. I've had first and second trust deeds. I've had my son-in-law would like to be invested in board and care facilities, on and on and on. The point being, I've got an investment in an office park. We've had investments in office buildings. I've done peer-to-peer lending. The things I'm talking about, I have the experience in.
Right. And we were talking before we came on live about, the interesting times we live in. And historically, we look back, every 100 years or less, there's, the world wars, pandemics in the past create a huge surge of prosperity afterwards. And we really were skeptical about this really unpredictable time that we've been in for the last 18 months, 2 years. But historically, it's proving to be true, because we're booming, even though it's weird and people are staying home, because we have online. There's a huge amount of opportunities out there. So this, just for those who are watching, this time is no different than any other time, that there's opportunities around you. And it doesn't mean that you have to sit on the sidelines and watch. Rennie's email will make that available to you. And I'm just going to turn it back to you again there, Rennie.
Thank you, Laurel. And, as an example of good times, bad times, there are landlords who have apartment buildings who have many tenants who have chosen not to pay their rent, even though they could. I'm not talking about the people who have been impacted by the pandemic and are unable to pay rent. There are tenants who took advantage of the situation in the moratoriums and decided not to pay rent and would go out and buy a new car instead. The point I'm getting at is, in good times or bad times, when you treat people with respect, you will have people that will help you. And what I'm getting at is, out of all of the properties that we have, all of the units that we have rented, 100% of our tenants have paid 100% of their rent through this entire pandemic, with the exception of one tenant who chose to move out. And so what I'm getting at is, I treat my tenants with respect, and they're buying real estate for me. Landlords who don't behave in that way, but I don't understand. It makes no difference. If you treat these people well, they will take care of you in good times and bad times.
I'll just comment on that too, that credit card companies in the past, they had quite an attitude of heavy-handed, really aggressive. And they learned through, just our changing times too, that if they take more of a proactive, how can we support you attitude, it's proven that people will pay more when they're treated more decently. And even if they have obstacles, in the moment, the credit card, the financial, the lenders are treating people more decently. That's fabulous. That's fabulous. So
Yeah,
statistically, it says, be nice to your people. They'll be happier to pay you the money that they owe you.
exactly. And it's funny too, because I just had an experience where I applied for a Macy's credit card to get a 20% discount on a purchase, and it wasn't approved. And I found out the reason it wasn't approved was because it required whoever was working in their back office to make a phone call to me to confirm I actually was applying for the card. They didn't make the phone call,
Mm.
so it was declined. And so when I got the letter saying it was declined, I called them and said, "Oh, it appears that a phone call was needed. It was supposed to be made. Did you get that phone?" No, no one called me. So, oh, well, let me ask you 3 questions. She asked 3 questions. Okay, it's now approved.
Can be that simple.
It can be that simple.
When I was a single mom with 2 little girls, and I had friends in investment, and I was starting off new. I paid off all my bills before I left the marriage, but I had nothing. I was working hard. I
Mm.
had my own business, but I was told that as soon as you put single and with children, you're declined.
Oh,
So yeah, I think it's times may have changed. I don't have an inside track on that these days, but back then what I did was I just started applying for credit cards, and the first one that gave me a credit card was a jewelry company. So of course I jumped in on that one.
yeah.
Because it was just about building the credit.
Yes. And it's so funny you say that, because that's how I started. Oh my gosh. Some 50 something years ago, with a jewelry store credit card, bought like the engagement ring or wedding ring for my wife at the time. And we made the payments, and that started building our credit 50
Same.
years ago.
Yeah, same. So another story on credit too was because you sparked my memory, to get the discount. So my husband did that at a housewares place. He was buying a new coffee grinder, and it was less. He always loves a good deal. He doesn't like having the credit cards. But it's like, wow, it's like this much less. So he got the credit card, and then he forgot. And he worked away from home. So anyways, the mail wasn't coming, or he signed it up on email. I don't know. But next time he went to do, when we were purchasing a motorhome, worst investment ever, I'll just say.
No, I've got one that's worse. Go ahead.
Okay. Picking up some stories there. We were almost rejected, or he was almost rejected, because of a $90 purchase that he forgot about. And whatever, they couldn't ever get a hold of him because he doesn't answer his phone when he's away, because he's overseas or something. Certainly had the money to pay for it. Was such a good lesson. But we should have taken the red flag, that we shouldn't have thrown our money away on that motorhome.
Oh,
Yeah.
or
Anyways,
the
we
coffee
enjoyed it
grinder.
completely, but it was like, wow, what a money suck.
Yeah, well, yes.
Good lessons.
And it can be very similar to, people who talk about a boat or a yacht being a money pit. But the situation is, okay, here's what I consider worse. And it's in the real estate category, I guess. And it's a timeshare, where
Okay.
you're sitting down and they're selling you on, all the vacation possibilities and how you can trade it and how you can do this with it and that with it. And the reality is, you're saddling your children and your grandchildren with this debt forever. Unless you can get rid of it, you can't sell it. You have to pay to have someone help you get rid of it.
Mhm.
But there is a way around that. I'll talk about that in a moment. So I say that's worse than the motorhome. And the
Yeah.
reason for that is, even if you're not using the motorhome, you still have control over it
Yeah.
and can rent it out to someone else who wants to use it. Just make sure you got adequate insurance. And there are people who've bought a motorhome and then rent it out to other people.
Yeah. Well, it's such a pretty little piece that it would be like renting out my favorite evening dress.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to wear this one for a while before I let someone else drive her,
well, okay, I
which
get
is
it.
pretty lovely. So we just that's what we do. Lesson learned and lesson to our children. So we felt actually quite stupid. And here's what I learned about this is that many people suck up experiences like that and feel ashamed. They get scammed. They feel ashamed and embarrassed. And here's the thing, talk about it, turn it into a positive, find some way to either recoup your money or enjoy it completely without guilt.
Exactly. And it's having a change of attitude. The number one aspect of the wealthy is their attitude. And I was going to say a solution to the timeshare debacle, and that is I actually have a friend of mine. And when he had like several timeshares, it made no sense to me. Well, at this point in time, he has about over 100 timeshares. So what? He hasn't had to buy them. People have given them to him.
Wow.
And he's created a business out of it, where if you think of 100-room hotel, he has 100 timeshares that he rents out that are all over the world.
Well, who'd have thought Airbnb would have been as phenomenal?
Yep.
I actually did do that for a while because we had a very large home and I was just there alone. And so whatever, my requirements were kind of stiff. And my kids said, no one will ever do it, Mom, because you don't allow, because I'm only plant-based. But actually, people came from around the world to stay in a plant-based environment. I think all of them had never had that experience before. They wanted to have dinner parties with me. They wanted to learn my inside secrets. I could have capitalized on it even more, but we had Germany, Costa Rica, Mexico, east and west coast of Canada. It was a hoot, and I made money. Money, and I didn't have to eat alone sometimes when my husband was away a lot.
Oh, that's so great. And with the Airbnb, you've turned that house into something that generated an income.
Yeah, exactly.
That's beautiful. Well, I know we're getting low on time. Does anybody who?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any comments, but I'm seeing that we have quite a few people on, and so I'll just say to you, leave your comments, your questions for Rennie. He's just a generous, humble man that is sharing from his life experience so that you too can do really well for you and your family. So go to his TED Talk. And I found it inspiring. I watched it twice, actually, Rennie. So I'm not a stalker, but I really appreciated your wisdom. And in a time when people are searching, often the teacher is right in front of you. It's when the student is ready. So you're hearing this message today for some reason. Maybe you don't even realize it in the moment, but there's something here for you. So I want to thank you so much for your time, Rennie. And we'll say goodbye, but leave your questions and your comments. And I've posted your email. So go there and get the free form. I'll just let you wrap up with what they'll get when they email you.
Yeah, I'm going to send out a list of all the different areas of real estate where people could be making investments that we spoke about, because I ran through it kind of quickly. And if they go to the wealthonanyincome.com website and put /TEDx, they'll also get to see the TED Talk where I talk about how we've been programmed to be poor. And then I provide the cure, which is a 9-step roadmap to complete financial choice.
And I'm working through my roadmap, and I appreciate you, and thank you so much, Rennie. You're a great citizen, doing just passing it forward. Truly.
Thank you, Laurel. And until next week, have a wonderful week.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.